I think back, Mr. Speaker, as we talk about this bill that is purportedly about removing politics and ideology from classrooms. I think back on my own experience as a student, my own education right here in Edmonton, in Alberta. There are a lot of good things in my education, Mr. Speaker, things that I look back and I appreciate, things I benefited from. Now, to give a little context, Mr. Speaker, I grew up in a very strict, fundamentalist, evangelical Christian home. So that made it hard for me at times. I was very different from most of the other kids around, from my classmates. I wasn't allowed to go to any movies. I was extremely restricted in what I could watch on TV. I could not listen to the same music as my friends, because my parents believed it was very, very important that I not be influenced by the world around us. So it was a bit challenging for me at times in school, Mr. Speaker. But you know what? I was supported by my teachers. I remember in grade 5, Mr. Speaker, that was right about the time that Michael Jackson put out his Thriller album. It was big. Of course, I was not allowed to listen to it, hadn't heard it, but for our music class, our teacher was having us do choreography to a Michael Jackson song. Mr. Speaker, it was an incredibly difficult moment for me as a kid. I was so afraid of engaging in dancing. I sat down and I cried. My teacher did not judge me. She did not judge my parents' beliefs. She sat down and she comforted me. And she excused me. From grade 6 to grade 9, I went to Strathcona Christian Academy. And certainly there was a very strong bias and opinion in all of those classes at that school, Mr. Speaker. Not saying anything about it one way or the other, but just acknowledging that was in fact the case. And when I came out of junior high, graduated from grade 9, I went to East Glen High School here in Edmonton. I went there because it was a smaller school. I needed to get comfortable being back in the public school system. And you know what? I enjoyed the fact that we had smaller classes, particularly because I had the opportunity to attend classes in an advanced academic stream. And Mr. Speaker, I was not shy, because at that time I was still very much involved in that evangelical church community. I wasn't shy about my ideas, my beliefs. I'd been taught it was a good thing to speak out, to witness, Mr. Speaker. So I did in school. You know, I think in particular about my grade 12 English teacher, Mr. Hughes. English was one of my favorite classes. You know, I loved to read, I loved analysis, I loved to write. I was one of those weird kids that actually enjoyed writing essays. Now, in that class, Mr. Hughes did not judge what I wrote, at least not in the way that we're talking about here today. He gave me good grades on my papers on agape love, on sexual abstinence. They were replete with citations from the Bible, prominent Christian literature of the time. Mr. Hughes gave me excellent grades because he marked for the quality of the writing, the ability to form an argument. And I had learned those skills from my teachers and from the opportunities that I had in those smaller classrooms, that close attention, that support that was available. Now, I could tell Mr. Hughes at times was a little exasperated sometimes when I'd speak up in class and essentially, I'll be honest, Mr. Speaker, pretty much preach. Because again, I've been taught that that was an admirable thing to do. Didn't shut me down, did engage with me at times, acknowledged that, you know, the beliefs he had were not the same as mine, but I did not feel judged. And in fact, at the end of that school year, Mr. Hughes wrote the reference letter for me to attend Canadian Bible College in Regina. Now, Mr. Speaker, there were negative experiences that I had growing up as well. Because like I said, I was not a kid that fit in. I was awkward, I was nerdy, I was clumsy, I was openly and loudly religious. I got picked on for that by the jocks, the bullies. I was also, Mr. Speaker, as I continue to be black, and I encountered racism. High school bullies who mocked me for my natural hair. You know, Mr. Speaker, back then we didn't really talk about racism in any of our classes. Don't recall ever coming up in high school. We did do To Kill a Mockingbird, but I don't recall any real robust discussion about contemporary racism. In fact, in 12 years of education, I can't recall a single incident or instance where we talked about that in class. But I experienced it, and I didn't have anyone I could talk to about it. Now, what made schools good, Mr. Speaker, what made it a good experience for me, all the things I highlighted today, wasn't due to a lack of a pride flag. It wasn't because there was no ability for me as a student to have a respectful dialogue with my teachers about current issues and ideas. It wasn't because the government had given some dictate to Mr. Hughes telling him he must remain neutral in the classroom. The things that made school good for me, that made me a sharp critical thinker, that gave me the skills to be able to standing here doing what I do today, are because we had smaller classes, because we had proper funding, because schools were able to hire the staff they needed, because teachers had the capacity to be able to give us attention, to provide real support, to be creative in their approach, to be real human beings, Mr. Speaker, and not have to worry about the government peering over their shoulder or feeding into feeding frenzies, goading parents to distrust teachers, to distrust our public education system, to believe that they're somehow out to get their kids. With Bill 25, Mr. Speaker, this government is doing absolutely nothing to ensure that students have those good things. They're doing nothing to repair the deep damage that they've in fact done to most of those good things with their cuts to funding, their vilification of teachers and the folks who care for students in our schools. In fact, they've taken away many of the things that would make schools better. In fact, they've got it completely backwards, Mr. Speaker, and upside down. There's nothing in this bill that will improve learning or make our classrooms better. I'd say there is quite a bit in this bill that will make things markedly worse. When it comes to this bill, when it comes to so much of the legislation that they have brought into this House, it's all part of the same. Part of this government using their platform and their power, the public purse, to stir up anger and division around problems that don't actually exist, working furiously, Mr. Speaker, to make mountains out of molehills. Because, Mr. Speaker, they can't stand on their record. Because, as I said, their record on education is abysmal. I don't think we've seen a greater decline in our public education system under any government in the history of this province. And sadly, Mr. Speaker, because they have done such a terrible job in education, because they have created such a mess in our schools, they have turned to vilifying teachers and trying to create more anger and division to distract from the mess that they've made. I mean, this UCP government, they have a long history of going after teachers, trying to drive a wedge between them and the parents of the students they teach, claiming they aren't doing their jobs, they're promoting ideology. Started with their disastrous curriculum rewrite that my colleague from Empton Highlands, Norwood, was talking about, carried right through to the strike last fall. Again, Mr. Speaker, using public dollars to put out videos with all kinds of misinformation about teachers, what they were looking for, the state of our classrooms. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, that strike was driven by the fact that while this government was busy running teachers down for its 7 years in power, they've been cutting funding and supports for students in schools and, like I said, leading to probably the most significant decline in the quality of our public education that we've seen under any government. And that continues, Mr. Speaker. And that is what we see in Bill 25. Mr. Speaker, we stand with parents in wanting to see their kids get quality education in the classroom. We want to see parents have access to be able to talk with their teachers if they have concerns and have that discussion. But you know what, Mr. Speaker? For that to work well, teachers need to have capacity. Right now, they don't. This government is running them ragged with bloated classrooms, under-resourced, lack of supports, lack of educational assistance and others. And that hurts parents, Mr. Speaker. And what hurts parents is when this government tells them that teachers are the problem. Mr. Speaker, teachers are not the problem. The problem is this government, a government that seemingly does not value the power of public education. Mr. Speaker, I benefited hugely from public education. It taught me to think critically. It gave me the skill sets that I have today. And the fact is, Mr. Speaker, those are the things that government needs to be focused on. I am tired of this government stirring up anger and division, fighting endless culture wars. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, nothing in Bill 25 is going to do anything to improve our education system. It's a smokescreen. It's a distraction. It's an insult to the parents in Alberta who truly just want to see better education for their kids. I don't know they're ever going to get it under this government, Mr. Speaker. But I'll tell you, myself, my colleagues here, we're ready to bring that better government that will give people the education system and the opportunities they deserve.